So, welcome to the 35th reading of the West East and Beyond Poetry Series. Today we're featuring the poets Ray Armantrout, Mary Keating, Susan Michele Coronel, and Margot Taft Stever. I'm Lynn McGee, and I'm a co-host along with Susana Case, Sandy Yannone, and Carolyne Wright. Just to give you a little background really quickly, since June 2020, we've hosted over 150 poets from all over the continental United States, as well as in the Caribbean, Ireland, England, Brazil, and Argentina. 2026 is going to be our last year of readings. We have a website. I'll put the web link in the chat column so you can scroll down and see videos for all the readings so far if you're curious. Also, if you'd like to read one of your poems in our open mic, please put your name in the chat column. This has been a devastating week. I'm going to go off topic very briefly. I want to congratulate you for being here, even if you're feeling saturated with rage, fear, shock, and sadness, even if it feels like your spirit is choking on news of murder, invasion, and lawlessness. 32 people have died in ICE custody since 2025. And I'd like to dedicate this reading to poet Renee Nicole Good, who was murdered by an ICE agent this past Wednesday in Minneapolis. Heather Cox Richardson posted earlier today that, quote, recognizing this administration as fascist is now imperative. The word imperative has among its early roots the Latin word meaning to make ready. Being here today, I think, can help us ready ourselves for whatever is coming next. I invite you to let your unguarded heart absorb what our poets are here to share. So let's begin. It's my honor to introduce the first poet in today's program. Susan Michele Coronel's beautiful premiere full-length book, In the Needle, A Woman, won the 2024 Donna Wolfe Palacio Prize and was published by Finishing Line Press in 2025. Her full bio is in the chat column, but I'm just going to say a few things about her manuscript. She was a finalist in 4 prestigious manuscript contests before she won the Wolfe Palacio Prize. And she completed the well-known Year of Your Book workshop at the Hudson Valley Writers Center with poet Jennifer Franklin. Susan has worked as an elementary and ESL teacher in the New York City public schools. Thank you, Susan. And has lived in Queens for over 20 years, where she has owned and directed a daycare business for children under the age of 4. In the Needle, A Woman is a remarkable book. Coronel dedicates it to her daughters and the next generation of women. Poet Jennifer Martelli, who passed away just this past September, writes of In the Needle, A Woman, that the collection retraces, quote, her family's trauma back to the pogroms in Europe, as well as her own childhood of the 70s. We are transported to a preteen wood paneled basement, tuning into radio static that crackled under a dangling bulb, coating our tongues bright gold. Julia Lucella writes, the poems here mark the beginning of what must be lived when the past's cinders are spread across generations. I felt stronger reading aloud the book's opening poem, To Whom Do I Belong? These poems also speak to the lyric dreamer in any given reader. If you have lost a brother or sister, they will open a comforting portal to grief you might not have been aware of. A lot of the poems are about grief. And last of all, I just wanted to say that these poems ground the reader in the experience of having a home, and you'll see a lot of details and immersion in the experience of home. Please welcome Susan Michele Coronel. Thank you. And everybody, please mute yourself.
Thank you, Lynn, for that wonderful introduction. I'm really grateful to be part of this amazing reading series, and it is an honor to read alongside such a distinguished group of poets. You are luminaries. My book, In the Needle, A Woman, is largely autobiographical and follows the speaker's trajectory from childhood through adolescence, adulthood, marriage, and divorce, and toward independence as a woman and a writer. One of the central themes in my book is the complicated, ever-evolving relationship between mothers and daughters. And along the way, I bring in myth and visual art as a way to step back from the autobiographical and transform the personal. The first poem I'm going to read is The Year My Mother Turns Back Time. And it's grounded in real life experience and engages with the illness and loss of a brother. And instead of moving forward chronologically, the poem moves backward in time. The year my mother turns back time is also the year my brother turns into ashes, scatters like pollen into an invisible sea, carried by trees and wind and leaves. My mother jerks her head backwards to shake off a grief that refuses to be shaken, and time reverses kaleidoscopically. My brother is 16 again, strengthening his biceps, flexing them to lift the TV remote off the wheelchair armrest, and the girl with the mulberry eyes is smiling at him, rolling a lifesaver candy in the folds of her tongue. He marvels at her titanium hair. Then he's 9, running to first base on a softball field, and instead of constantly falling, he's miraculously standing upright. The fat in his calves is shrinking, plump legs easing into lanky sticks, not stilts or spears or crutches. And suddenly he's 6, and we're both gasping for air in a fort under our parents' quilts, where we listen to Casey Kasem's Top 40 countdown. We pretend we're lost and in love, opening the edge of the covers to catch our breath. I force him to tell me his favorite song under threat of tickle torture. Time shifts again like a wobbly chair, and he's a toddler, riotously laughing as I make silly faces and twirl scarves around his playpen. Not a mulberry bush, but a tangle of brambles and wire. Then in a flash, he's in his crib, throwing toys like river stones, drops of milk staining his bib as he relaxes into the arms of his baby nurse. And he's swimming in a dark corner, not cave, sinkhole, or lagoon, of my mother's womb, twisting to the sound of throbbing blood. The amniotic fluid around his newly formed brain might be tapped, but my mother chooses at the last minute not to do an amniocentesis, even after warnings from her aunts, whose sons succumbed to the disease. Superstitions and salt are spraying from the family tree. Water blossoms spiral around his scoliotic spine and mutated strands of DNA until at last the squeaky mattress where our parents' bodies are beating with new life. The next poem, thank you. The next poem I'm going to read is called A Long Needle Was Inserted into My Belly to Extract the Truth, and it's closely connected to the poem I just read. It's shaped as the speaker's letter to her son, carrying the hope that he will be spared the genetic illness that claimed her brother. A long needle was inserted into my belly to extract the truth. Dear son, it took a week to know your gender and a week more to find out if you were affected by the genetic mutation that took my brother at 19. A bouquet of flowers was delivered to my 4th grade classroom that I had taught for the past 5 years with a card announcing it's a boy, and I was horrified. It'll be a healthy boy, your dad announced. My genes so strong they'll overpower yours. Anything else is a figment of your fears. What did he know about my fears? Fear of you collapsing like a tin can, fear of your calves becoming as fat as drumsticks, fear of you crossing a balance beam with braces. My fate and yours lay in the undeniable accuracy of a Punnett square. 25% affected boy, 25% non-affected boy, 25% carrier girl, 25% non-carrier girl. I hoped for the improbability of probability, thought of my mother's cousin Robert, melting velvet puddle in a wheelchair. He lived until 33, the longest of any family member with the disease. Waiting for the doctor's call, I watched my brother spin through time like a cocoon's threads unraveling, our parents constantly yelling at each other when he became too heavy to carry. The dizzying freight of inheritance loosed missing letters and links upon the world, But son, you and I luted together for a new sound of affirmation, a drop of autumn plum, and the extraction of liquid notes formed a music that recalibrated, affirmed you were safe, the unafflicted one. The next poem is moving forward in time, and it's called Lucky Girl, No Eggshells. Lucky girl, no eggshells. Puberty preheats my preteen daughter to 350 degrees. Warms eggs like turgid butter as she fills and empties measuring cups and spoons. In a steady rhythm, she folds the batter, snaps crescents on the rim of a metal bowl. Next, she scrapes the bottom, spreading dollops of batter on a grease tray before popping it in the oven. Mounds of walnuts, butterscotch chips, and raisins erupt with cinnamon dust. With floured hands, she clears the table, wipes them on her navy blouse. Carefully, she removes her confections, covers them with a kitchen towel, setting them to cool on the ledge. Now the waiting. Little hairs sprout around her belly button, knuckles, and ankles, light fuzz around lips and chin. Her breast buds are little lumps of baking powder, dusted with salt, swollen, surfacing soon. And the next one is another poem about that same daughter, and it's called Younger Daughter Resists Tradition. And it's about the friction of trying to pass traditions onto a child who doesn't yet feel a connection to them. Younger daughter resists tradition. She tells me one day, I don't want to take Yiddish classes anymore. In Fiddler on the Roof, the youngest daughter insists on leaving the fold because of true love. But to her father, she's a splinter and a cantaloupe, untethered from tradition and from every family who has ever said, stay, follow, without doing it themselves. True love. A violin shivers naked, trills on a hill, attempting to play a familiar tune. But the music escapes through holes in pockets, beguiles even those with the best intentions, singing, look what you've done. Loss is a bone caught in the throat, a sewing needle threaded not once, but in both directions. The only Jewish tradition left for my daughter is food. Matzo ball soup, chocolate coins, bagel with a smear of cream cheese. What she does not know is that I am trying to keep my balance on a roof, whose shingles dangle like warped leaves. There are no prayers of devotion, but reams of remorse, the repeated desecration of our culture through history, confirming that we still sit on rotten hands. I care little for the temple, rituals opening like a can of preserved peaches, but yearn for the parsley sprig, for the Star of David to be twisted and reimagined, so my children will not lose what came before without knowing what they're losing, even as I know it's already lost forever. Love is sweet, but better with abyssal salt, a kiss on the punum. Thieves and the dead I've loved knew darkness like a tattered coat. Children always refuse, but it's still better to ask them to carry something than to come to the table of the future empty-handed.
There you go. Yeah. Put your hands out. Yeah.
And I have one more poem.
Hmm.
It does have a political thread going through it, which seems relevant these days. It's called Walking on Eggshells in Rio de Janeiro. It's an ekphrastic poem, of course, and it's inspired by a photograph of a 1981 performance called Entre Vidas, Between Lives, by the Italian-born Brazilian artist Ana Maria Maiolino. Walking on Eggshells in Rio de Janeiro. The eggs are not aware of how I waltz as I twist and turn around them like a capoeira dancer. I march barefoot around scattered eggs on cobbled streets, navigating a minefield of metaphors, fragility, disorder, hope of new life. When I was 6, Mrs. Biederman set up an incubator in the classroom. I held the egg against my chest, shell still warm. When the chick hatched, I let it spring over my wrists, little feet, indenting my palms.
Mm.
I inhaled the scent of sawdust and popcorn, fluffy feathers pulsing softly like a bulb, the chick so tiny and light I could have crushed it with a flinch of my hand. To avoid the brutality of smashing an egg is an elaborate choreography. Do I swerve enough to avoid complicity in violence? Dictators don't understand metaphors. The rest of us know how dangerous it is to live even one day. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Susan. Muito obrigada por isso. Yeah, I want to talk to you about Ana Maria Maiolino, if possible, in the future. Yeah.
So let's give her a to unmute for a second and give Susan a little round of applause.
Bravo, bravo. Maravilha, maravilha.
Okay.
Muito lindo.
All right.
Can you, because no one's a co-host, Lynn, can you mute everyone except, of course, Ray and Caroline?
Okay, I am going to take just a minute here. Thanks, everybody. I'm having a little fun with the chat, which doesn't want to, it seems not to want to honor my postings, but I think I can get, okay, there is all of the bio except the links, which I'm going to post now. And it seems to be behaving better. So thank you. Thank you, chat. And there's the book cover for Go Figure. Okay, there's everything. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm very honored to be able to introduce Ray Armantrout here. Armantrout, I'm sorry. I first became aware of her work years and years ago, but more so when I discovered that she had moved after retirement from San Diego, where she was long time on the faculty of University of California, San Diego, and where she was faculty and longtime director of the New Writing series. But when I learned that she had moved to Everett, Washington, I was very pleased to have a little contact with her. And then more recently, she appeared at a reading in Everett, and I was honored to see her there. And so I was glad to be able to invite her to read. Ilya Kaminsky, in his piece in the Boston Review on Ray's work, considered her a genre-bending and provocative poet of the postmodern world view, with her influences being the language poets, of which he regarded her as a founding mother of the West Coast group of those poets. I don't quite think of her as a language poet, although I do appreciate the spareness of the language and the sort of the irony and sly wit of these oblique and maybe at times bleak poems, but all of them are full of, there's a certain humor that, kind of like smiles out beyond the edges there. And I think of her, I think of Ray's work as what would happen if Emily Dickinson and Marion Moore had a tea party and mixed a little something extra in the tea. And then they somehow got together, found a video player, and watched Blow Up, something like that. And I was also thinking of, she with that oblique language, and yet there's a richness of vocabulary drawn from pop culture, scientific lingo, and many other sources, the whole tradition of poetry in English. And so I was kind of thinking of Wallace Stevens as edited by Gordon Lish. Ray, thank you for smiling. Or maybe if a poet like William Carlos Williams, who was one of her influences, if he drove a Chevy to the levee and then switched to a Ferrari and clambered aboard one of those personal rocket ships that is now all in vogue in certain Doge circles. But no, politically not there. But this is work that takes off in wonderfully unexpected directions. So please welcome Ray Armantrout. We're very honored to have you here. Okay.
Thank you, Carolyne. That was a great introduction and funny. Bleak and oblique. I like that. I like that pair. What I decided to do, first of all, I should tell you to reassure you that most of my poems are short. So even if it looks like I'm going to read a lot, they're short. My plan was to read 4 older poems, 6 poems from the current book, go figure, and then 4 newer poems. If it looks like I'm going too long, I'm happy to stop, but that's my plan. I did time it, so it should be okay. Except for I didn't time this part where I'm just chatting with you, sadly. Anyway, okay. This first one is from my book Conjure. It's called Pinocchio, and when in that poem where Margot was reading about the being the unaffected one, there's something of that in this in a bleak and oblique way. Pinocchio. Strand, string, in this dream, the paths cross and cross again. They are spelling a real boy out of repetition. Each one is the one real boy. Each knows he must be wrong about this, but he can't feel how. The fish and the fisherman, the pilot, the princess, the fireman, and the ones on fire. And this next one, I thought, in honor of this week, the second half of this was inspired by the first Trump administration. It's in 2 parts. Where will you spend eternity? 1. How would you describe a God who could use magic but doesn't? Who prefers elaborate widgets and toggles, seconds toppling one by one, the careful recording of endless instructions? 2. We're riveted by the hell show. The devil plays a huckster. What will he come out with next? Demons banished for dramatic effect are brought back to lobby for poisoning children. We can't believe they let us watch. In fact, they make us. And then this one has something to do with thinking about the environment. It's also in 2 parts. Transport. 1. Would you like the world to end now in your lifetime so you don't miss anything? Would you like the world to go on so that someone later might feel as you once did? Did you feel anxious when alone? Did you feel restless at parties? 2. If clear yellow petals are enough, like sails, I'll be well away. I'll be on my way to this late summer dusk. And this one I wrote for Robert Creeley when he died. He was another one of my figures who were important to me when I was first becoming a poet. Framing for Robert Creeley. What you won't see today, Juniper's tough skein, the rolling hummocks have grown syntax, tassels and bells for careless wings to be among. The tick in articulation, the present is cupped by a small effort of focus. Its muscular surround, you're left out. Okay, then I'm going to read some from Go Figure. This has something to do with the general cultural and political climate, of course. Skid. Sleep is my boyfriend, my mother, my boss. It tells me disjointed stories, news of the night world. I am walking on the fragile bodies of dolls. No, I'm not. It's something else. A sentimental journey through a doomsday scenario. Then we're back with the anger reenactors hired to grease the skids. That's how I describe the Fox News folks and all. Enchanted Forest. The time came when the flags flown over Enchanted Forest and Camperland could never be raised above half-mast because mass murder followed mass murder so rapidly. How is it that one bar of music can follow another longingly and languidly in this adagio, often played at funerals? Scooting 2 chairs forward, you played traffic jam and beeped. The thrill of pretending is not in pretending that you have improved things. Which kind of irony is this? Enchanted Forest is a pasteboard theme park carved out of the forest. This was one of my 2 or 3 pandemic poems. Zing. A set of instructions for making instructions. That's a virus. Pure, unencumbered value. Money making money in a host cell. So streamlined, it's redundant. But what good is a metaphor weighed down with obscure reference when what's wanted is the zing of unimpeded transmission? And this harks back to the environmental stuff. Preparedness. Animals find us eerie. We can see what's coming in broad strokes, washed out, frequently displaced. Still, it smites us like ghosts we pass back and forth between times, stunned.
Before Mary's going to read her stuff in a minute. Oh.
Okay, someone's talking. Should I go on? All right, I'll start over.
Yeah, go ahead. Start that poem over again, please.
Preparedness. Animals find us eerie. We can see what's coming in broad strokes, washed out, frequently displaced. Still, it smites us like ghosts we pass back and forth between times, stunned, unable to feel what we touch. We believe in abstractions. That's one way to explain our failure to prepare. Okay, I'm just going to read one more from the book, I think. Angel. When I was almost a woman, the men in the radio called someone I thought might be me an angel and a baby. I wasn't offended. What did I know? I knew I would have to empty myself to fit inside the songs, and I wanted to be in them as long as they lived, to be called to and never come, to be full of my lighter and lighter self with literally no place to go, as it is in heaven. All right, then I've got 4 new ones, and I'm done. This one is prose. Clarion. There are people who don't hear an internal monologue or private dialogue in their heads. I know people who don't imagine songs on the radio are by or about them and their private affairs. Humans live in a narrow slice of time compared with dogs, for whom what we think of as recent history is still present on the air. I have dreams in which I'm not even a protagonist. Am I the only one? It's like watching television with a great sense of urgency. The ornamental pear puts out just 2 small leaves of such a clarion red amidst the green ones that I look up the meaning of clarion and find it refers to a small, high-pitched medieval trumpet, or to the sound it made. This makes me want to weep and to be seen weeping. Do you know what I mean? Which? I'm shrinking, I shrieked, meaning aging, nearing death, because I thought that to pretend I was the witch in The Wizard of Oz was funny and would thus communicate something, if not exactly my feelings. Cousin Rust, with your look of blood and sunset, I'm almost in love with the lace you've made of metal. This one has 2 parts. Heavens, 1. Heaven was bright, pocked, bony, green, orange, or pink towers, home to such alertness. Clownfish peeked from crevices and pulled back when sharks drifted by, their eyes black discs. 2. It's like this. The rebel angels won, though they don't want to admit it. They toppled heaven after heaven. And that one was about coral reefs dying, really. And then the last one is called As for Death. There was a stance, almost kinesthetic, you took with each one based on who you thought you were to them. The exercise of holding in mind the world as you believed they saw it, so that when you met, you knew where it was safe to disagree and where it wasn't. These things are lost when they die until you are paired back to nothing.
Thank you so much, Ray. The book is Go Figure. And, I want to say the poems to me felt like these shark bites of truth to power.
Yes.
Shark bites of truth to power.
Yes.
How about we just unmute very briefly and show our appreciation before I introduce Mary Keating?
Thank you, Ray. Thank you so much. We will be in touch.
Okay. And remember, everyone, especially the 2 poets coming next, that I have to leave to go to the doctor because I have an eye infection. So.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Thanks for the bravery today.
Yes, good luck. Good luck with that. Hopefully, healthcare in Everett will treat you well.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm gonna put Mary's book cover up right now.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
And I want to just say a couple things as I'm sharing my comments here in my introduction of Mary Keating. In her poem, The Heart Speaks, the poem careens to a prescient final 2 stanzas that really never fail to hold my attention. Here they are. Against all you've been taught, be vulnerable here. Leave logic behind along with linear time. And tell those who ask and those who do not ask what came and went and what remains. I first met Mary last summer when we were both selected to read in the Larger Than Life R.J. Julia's bookstore's local authors reading series at their flagship store in Middletown, Connecticut, adjacent to the Wesleyan University campus. It was a balmy summer evening, and I felt immediately drawn to her. Her wit, her curiosity, her way of being engaged with every fiber of her surroundings. I just felt it so palpably. A kindred poet spirit, for sure. For sure. And I was riveted as I heard her read the poems in Recalibrating Gravity. It's a memoir in verse that comes with a powerful admonition. Do not get caught in the trap of defining anyone by a singular event in their own one precious life. In the case of Mary Keating, that one event was a car accident when she was 15, and it set Mary's life path to work as a disabilities rights activist, to live the example of a limitless life, even though the accident labeled her a paraplegic for life. And so I come back to those words in The Heart Speaks. Against all you've been taught, be vulnerable here. Leave logic behind, along with linear time. A Yale Law School graduate, poetry editor of Scribes Micro, a Pushcart Prize nominee times over, a scuba diver, a world traveler, Mary Keating uses poetry to tell her story about how to live vulnerably in a vulnerable world, with Mary turning vulnerability into a supreme superpower. Poet Joan Kwan Glass says, recalibrating gravity has stayed with me since I turned the last page. And the same is true of me, as every poem demands that I pay attention and listen differently to how I was taught, to listen and really hear Mary when she tells us in these spirited poems what came and went and what remains. And so open your ears and prepare to be surprised by everything that remains when you remain open and vulnerable. Please welcome Mary Keating.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. What a beautiful introduction. I'm so touched. I'm really thrilled to be here with everybody and share from my book, Recalibrating Gravity, which, as Sandy mentioned, it's my life before, during, and after a car accident when I was 15, which kind of shook my world and turned it upside down, as the diver is upside down. And how do you get your life, back the right way? I don't think we ever do. I think life is life. My first poem I wanted to read was from the beginning of my book, and it sort of sets the stage of how I was raised Catholic and the church and what it was like as a kid. It's a 6-year-old girl at Sunday Mass. I'm stuffed into a pew at the Church of the Resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ with my 2 older sisters, my baby brother, my dad, and my mother. Our yellow lab Heather stuck home alone. She isn't allowed, which makes me wonder if she'll be allowed in heaven when Jesus comes again. My sister and I sport matching yellow shifts with scenes from Barbados stitched on in bright threads. Mom and Dad got them there last year on their annual vacation. Mine's really short now, and my thighs are sticking to the wood. We rushed to get to 10 o'clock Mass. I barely had time to get dressed before Dad yelled, "Everybody in the car in 2.5 minutes." I forgot to put on my underwear. I hope no one notices. Just keep staring ahead at my 2 older sisters with their shiny blonde hair, not me with dull brown. I look around and wait for the priest to tell us what to do. Kneel, stand, kneel, Sit down. If we get it right, we must go to heaven. Mom turns and smiles. She's 2 sisters away. Her beef-high hairdos caved in on the side she sleeps, despite her silky pillowcase. I keep waiting for a bee to buzz out of her hair at any moment, some miracle to stop the endless drone. The priest raises his hand for us to stand, and my skin smarts as the wood pulls me back, as if a devil's hiding in the oak. I let out a small yelp, which makes me wonder about Heather home alone, waiting for us or the milkman. But it's Sunday and the milkman isn't coming today. When we stand, my shift rises up. My sister Ann pulls it down, whispering, "Did you forget something?" I turn red. She starts to laugh, which isn't allowed in church. Soon all of us, even Dad, are trying not to, squeezing our eyelids, scrunching our faces, biting our lips, crying. Of course, except Mom, mad as a queen bee. We sit and kneel and stand in endless repetition. And when Mom's eyes aren't stinging me, the wood devil is. And I'm secretly praying Heather won't be allowed in heaven because Mom's going to kill me and I'm going somewhere else. So that was my view as a kid, but I didn't really think God was like that. And when I had my accident, this is though it happened right when I woke up. This poem is called Grace. I don't remember what the police said happened, how they found me, a teenage girl screaming to get out of what was left of a 1965 Mustang convertible, caved in, except for I was sitting. I don't remember crashing into 2 oak trees. I just remember heading for a stone wall as the teen pushed his car to the limit. I had wanted to get out of that car a few minutes after I got in when I realized he was drunk, but he wouldn't let me. I kept praying for a stop sign or a red light, deluded. He'd follow traffic rules, but all lights were green. So it made sense. My first words to the cops were, "Let me out of this car." But I don't remember saying them or even talking to the police. God must have touched me between then and when I came to lying on the side of the road, instantly knowing I was paralyzed. How could I not know when it felt like someone had just slid a metal sheet into my body, dividing me at the chest, splitting my heart in two? Everything below my chest wasn't just numb, it was like it wasn't there. And the pain, oh, the relentless pain right at the break. God must have touched me then because I remained so calm. And I asked God, now what? For in that moment of forever, God wasn't the stern God of the church our family visited every Sunday, the one who demanded rituals that magically saved us. No. God must have touched me, for I felt such love and solace in that moment of horror. And knew no matter what happened, God was with me, loved me, and God had a plan. So, right after my accident, I couldn't sit up. So they put me on this wheel tilt table, and it reminded me of being the bride of Frankenstein in that movie where they wheel her in and she's got the bolts in her head and things. So I wrote this poem called Bride of Frankenstein. The unwieldy tilt table squeaks as the tech wheel in next to my hospital bed, gingerly transfer my prone body onto it, then strap me in. My PT smiles above me, asks if I'm ready, while she angles the table upward degree by degree into a standing position. But we never get further than a few clicks on a protractor when blood rushes out of my head to pull at my feet, go back to 0 written on my face. She drops me to an x-axis and angles me head down into negative space, waits for my face to flush, to inch me back into positive territory. We advance 10 degrees by the end of our session, only after I trick my mind into believing I'm the star of a horror movie playing the bride of a monster who just wants to be loved. indulging a director struggling to get the scene just to his liking, forcing me to repeat in an endless loop what is otherwise unbearable. So my mom was in the program, and it was the philosophy of AA that really helped me deal with everything, this whole change in my life. So I wrote this poem called Steps, which is written in iambic pentameter. When with an incomplete spinal cord injury, no one knew what my prognosis would be. I could be up and walking in no time, or only recover bits of function. Rehab became a waiting game, buttressed by hope, buttressed by a higher power, tools and steps of the program. And my mom, who constantly quipped that at least I wasn't in the black hole of Calcutta. Once told the specialist hadn't a clue, I stopped looking to them for my answers. Instead, I endured on inspiration from AA's Little Black Book and slogans, chanted, "Let go and let God, turn your life over, don't project, one day at a time." A Buddhist in training occupying a bed in Burke Rehabilitation. My mom stopped drinking just in time to coach her daughter how to walk different steps through a life of unexpected hardness. I had no idea what the black hole was, but I would never slip into its darkness. So I read this poem. It was about how to put on an obi or make an obi. So I thought, oh, I know. What can I write a poem instruction? I go, I know how to survive in a wheelchair. Smile. Until you don't care what everyone else thinks, always smile. It protects against pity. Watch for the smallest deviations in your path. If you fail to pay attention, they will pitch you out onto the ground to lie helpless for what seems like eternity until you get moving again. Opt for solid, sensible tires. Sudden spikes in the road will have no effect. Expect your personal space to be invaded, especially at airport security, where you will be legally molested. Prepare for your privacy to be invaded. Strangers feel entitled to ask you the most personal of questions. Make up a few fantastical stories about why you're in a wheelchair and practice saying them with a straight face. Don't worry about what you're wearing. Wheelchairs have a magical power to make you invisible, but be sure to cover your ass. Treasure those who treat you like everyone else instead of as an inspiration or an inconvenience. Get used to isolation, but keep trying to connect. The world is still learning the value of inclusion architecture. Just your presence in it creates change. Prepare to confuse. Ableists will think you have every disability and treat you like a child, or speak loudly and ever so slowly to you if they address you at all. Just don't forget to smile. Best to be underestimated and keep the joke to yourself. I was very fortunate in getting to marry my soulmate, and this is called A Brief History of Forever. 1. We meet in 4th grade at Osborne. You almost catch me in Boys Chase Girls, then Girls Chase Boys. 2. I sit behind you in homeroom at Rye. Hi, because I'm a K and you're an H. In 9th grade, you move out of town, miss me being in an infamous car accident the next year. 3. I'm in Hattonville. I discover you're in my freshman class, working behind the snack bar. You don't seem to mind me in a wheelchair. You whisk me away to an evening party in Massachusetts while you're manic. You could be my Prince Charming until I never want to see your movie star face again. 4. 9 years later, fresh out of law school, I tell God, I'm ready to get a husband. I bump into you browsing records at Caldor's. You take me to the city, melt me by the kiss at the Met. 5. You keep punctuating, we're not boyfriend-girlfriend. Our bodies punctuate differently until you disappear with my fairy tale dreams. 6. I get it. You think you can't handle a forever disability. If I weren't permanently paralyzed, I'd walk away from it too. Let's not mention your diagnoses. 7. In Albuquerque, Tom Petty sings to you, it's wake up time. My phone rings in White Plains, New York. You move across the U.S., overflowing my apartment, intertwining our lives. 8. 5 years engaged, we elope and marry at Sweetheart Rock. While I'm getting beautified, you commit your vows to memory. Surprise me, as you do for a lifetime, with just how much you love me. And I just have a very short poem if I have time to read it. Do I? It's called Recalibration Toolbox. Always keep handy. Patience. Jam extra into tight corners. Humor. WD-40 of life. Multi-purpose. Spray liberally. Kindness. Apply like humor. Action. Solvent for discrimination. Discernment. Energy saver. Faith. Duct tape substitute. Miracle worker. Gratitude. There is no substitute. Hope. Use when nothing else works. Love. No explanation necessary. Imagination. Everything outside the box. Acceptance. When everything else has failed. Thank you so much for letting me read to you.
Thank you so much, Mary. It's wonderful to know of your work and your brilliant contribution to this world of poetry and life.
Oh, thank you, Carolyne.
Mary, I love the concept of using verses for a memoir like this. It's done with so much deftness. Thank you.
Thank you, Susana.
So
Love
now,
memoir in verse.
so now our final reader, except for the open mic, Margot Taft Stever. I know Margot Taft Stever for over 20 years, and I consider her a friend as well as a colleague. She is a writer who sees deeply into the human condition, in particular, its inheritance and its trauma. Margot writes both personal history and with a fierce awareness of the larger world, the mistreatment of animals, for example, or the horrible future that awaits us with climate change. As you will see in a moment, her images are vivid, often startling, and her voice carries a quiet intensity. In her newest collection, Bareback Rider, she brings together memories of her beloved horse and a serious riding accident with wrenching portraits of a family shaped by addiction, mental illness, and loss. She writes of a brother lost to drugs, a sister numbed by cough syrup, a mother haunted by instability, and yet she also attends to small, urgent actions that matter. Stever's style is one of clarity sharpened by empathy. She pairs, and she's like that in outside of her poetry world too. Same thing, clarity and empathy. She pairs language down to what is essential, and in that space we feel the full gravity of what it means to endure, to witness, and to remember. And I know you will be moved by the work of Margot Taft Stever.
Thank you so much, Susana, for that wonderful introduction. It's great to be back at the West East Poetry Series and to hear Ray Armantrout, Mary Keating, and Michele Coronel and their wonderful poetry. And I also wanted to thank Sandra, Yannone, Carolyne, Wright, and Lynn McGee, and Susana for curating this series. In 2025, Broadstone Books published Bareback Rider. And for this chapbook, bareback riding was mainly metaphorical. I begin by reading two poems from previous books that directly address bareback riding, which I did a lot of during my childhood and teenage years. On the possession of horses. Their heads hunker forward when they canter, as if only one direction were possible, and they don't understand fire. They gallop back to a burning barn. Nothing about horses compels me now, though once I wanted to be one. What do horses have to do with love? The quivering limbs of their bodies, their hearts chiseled from stone, and riders cling to them as if just this holding on, this staying on could be everything. Once an entire village banned horses. You couldn't blame them after all the trouble. 1 minute normal, and the next, the children were possessed, leaving their comfortable beds at night, cavorting with horses from all around under the laden apple trees. No one knows how they planned it. They rode horses by moonlight, bareback and bare-assed, even in thunderstorms. When horses trot and canter, their hooves clatter, their bones chime like funeral bells, like clappers. They ring against the earth. Their heavy hooves beat against the earth. That was from my first book, Frozen Spring, and this is from my latest book, The End of Horses. Galloping double, bareback. Down sandy edges of paved country roads without helmets, bareback, the sisters clung to each other, to the horse, to the tree-lined ways that snaked around and through, as if going somewhere were not the goal. Their bodies twinned, hair wind-whipped, the triple rocking of legs pounding, the leaping beat of hooves. The girls struggled to stay the horse, rippling through them like storm. Wind-battered trees that framed the hush of birds silenced by their galloping, the muddy paths, the mourning dove, soft-eyed windows of distant houses. Head down, the quieted horse plowed through grasses, his massive form sleek, willowy. So much did they long for the beast's velvet nose to be buried in their arms. And then from Bareback Rider, I want to read the poem that from which the collection got the title. W. and J. Sloane's Window. In the bedroom display window of Sloane's, a man and a woman decide they must test the mattress. Since the room is papered with perfect apples, many have considered the same before, but none have dared or chosen. Outside the window, stragglers gather as the couple mounts the bed. When people ordinarily make love, pants pile nearby or heap on coarse rugs, skirts hang on the backs of simple chairs. Secret scenes, how long it takes to learn any new language. While clowns cavort and somersault, midgets swallow fire. Mimes remind them of their costumes and tricks. Some bodies beg to be opened, ears, pores, everything ponderous. The hard boards of their bodies flatten against each other, gristle, bone, and vinegar, the bed quilts still. The man unbuttons the woman's blouse, and her breasts spill out like apples on the bedspread. How he comes into her like this, the broad hinges of his skin, the mouth in the body opens wide, smiles, wants to grasp and hold. Walking the high wire as if balance were a test, they embrace before the audience. Sometimes the thin woman, the fat man, but when they have the grace of the bareback rider, the audience leans out of their seats. Antigua serves as a backdrop for the next two poems. Mangrove Forest. Fronds on palm trees knock together, chime, rustle with birds and waves and the constant sun. Last night rain broke from the sky suddenly, as from a wrenched seam, and the ocean roared, an angry father. Jump round, jump, jump. London Bridge is falling down. In the sand by his mother, the child is making a model of something he has seen. He digs industriously, sometimes flipping a root in sand into his mother's face by mistake. He wants to show how a developer has bulldozed a mangrove forest to build a road by the water in Antigua. The goats by the path so thin, ribs jut out. They could be starving and dying of thirst at the same time. Goats by the roadside so thin, ribs jut, almost pierce skin. The banana quit sits on a cup, yellow feathers flicking. Now most of the fish are gone from the island, Antigua. All the shells are gone from the beaches on the island, Antigua. Most of the animals are gone from the island, Antigua. Only the mongoose remains. Many of the trees are gone. Most of the rain is gone from the island. Will the Antiguan people be forced to leave and tourists not visit anymore? Pitched bodies of droughted children, bellies distended, lips no longer forming words, small hands clutching nothing. Hush, little child, gentle your soul. The wolf moon hovers in the midnight sky. And I've written many poems about my mother, and this one is set in Antigua. Changeling. Now you have come out of yourself, removed your skin, my mother, my changeling, who has known so many selves, so many shapes. Now you have come from yourself, my mother, my pupa, emerging from the chrysalis, my changeling, saved from the caw, the drunken froth. Can you truly have forgotten what you were before? Can memory be such a perfect hiding place? Now your wings, tattered, torn. When I followed you up the flowered staircase, the sound of the Antiguan waves around us, like a lullaby, held us, cradled together, date palms above. Somehow you held the railing. What is it that shook you? Once an old shrew crooning over your froth, now a fairy queen, quiet and serene. Flip flop, now you see it, now you do not. A butterfly gone mad, the chrysalis sewn back on backwards, sometimes upside down, leaving what was inside to atrophy, starve. In these last years, you return. Peekaboo, we see you, relieved that once again you can join us, even though part of you yearns for madness and part resents our strict refusal to allow you to run away. Sirens of the underneath, under sleep, calling you back to them, their rhythmic bodies slender and undulant, beaming for you to enter the uncovered avenue, where the sun shines viciously, fox with its fur so thick. I want to leave the burial, to cover my face in the warmth of your red fur, but I know you will run. The fox has become you. And I thought I might make it into the big time when I was contacted by a company that wanted to print the poem that I will read last, Lips of Pedestrians, for for sale on a beautifully fragranced reed diffuser bottle. But when I asked if they would give me credit or payment, I never heard back. Lips of Pedestrians. The going out I am talking about, the cold, racking rain of April, the thaw at the frozen door waiting, and your walking body walking through ephemeral, a total wisp, forlorn disappearance. The watery lines of the lit trees bend forward in the steady spring wind, and the cottonwood seeds twirl in the air, stick to the lips of pedestrians. You are always going out, going out. The door was just an old excuse for you to walk through, as if the tires of your car had not already burnt up the street. A poser in an old-fashioned photo, pretending this departure was just different from all the rest. Thank you. Thanks.
Why don't we all unmute ourselves so we can give Margot a round of applause and
Thank you, Margot.
Thank
Love
you.
that
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love the energy.
That's
Yeah.
right. The energy.
fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great rhythm.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
That was great, Margot. Beautiful poems.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. Good to hear. It's good, so good to hear all your poems. So we have our open mic now to close out, and we have three people of the open mic. So let me just check my little, where did I put their names? Here they are. Okay. And we just ask that you read one poem, and we really look forward to hearing it. So Laurel Benjamin, are you still here? Great. Okay, let me hit the gallery view. Speaker view. And please read your poem. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so honored to join this group and just kind of blown away by all the writing. So following along with animals, this one is inspired by Joan Didion, and the quote is, "We are not idealized wild things," and it's called Cat as Muse. The cat swipes her paw on the TV screen when mice appear, pokes her head behind the monitor, growls as noses dart, and little bodies dig a dirt mound. She's figured out how to peel back a scent of dirt, runs on a fur-scattered trail into darkness. After my mother died, I connected stars with hand-drawn lines like fairy lights. And standing in the night garden, I wondered what's unknowable beyond science, synapses firing. Hunting for shadows of planets, Venus wooed Jupiter, distance so close. Every time the cat gallops over, rises on hind legs like a meerkat, jumps on the TV table, she swats long tails. When the mouse tunnels through, she follows. Joan Didion's husband died one evening at the dining room table. She thought she might summon her husband back to life. In my own grief, I blurred past and present, losing the self I knew. Couldn't bring my mother back, though I tried in ghost conversations on daily walks. Perhaps I ran away. Today, I release my child brain, move close to the TV, extend my tongue, and lick the writhing mouse belly. Kangaroo hind legs, pointed witches with noses so delicate, diaphanous ears like window panes, where I find my mother, find what's been smuggled out of this world, past tears in the corner of the sky. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Leslie Ann Schechterson, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you would like to read a poem, please read one. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to read a Cadrolore that I wrote a while ago. I haven't read it for a while, but just kind of the mood of the times. I wanted something with positive and hope. So it's called If I Could Paint the World. Fuzzy string, pastel strands, spun by worn working hands, careful pulls from fleece lifted off an impressionist palette, float effortlessly through sage arthritic fingers. Rhythmic, meditative, soothing as cotton candy melting on the tongue, leaving the last bits of sweetness to linger a bit longer, the strands a bit stronger. Feet walking softly on velvet forest floor, searching for the magic of elfin lore. Birds singing to their mates, teaching their young while deer play hide and seek across trails. Soul searching, mushroom picking, breathing in dew freshened air, cleansing the cobwebs in the mind to take on highways, inspiring new byways. Plentiful purple flowers in full bloom, bumblebee's haven, my rhododendron plume. Peak expression over each stalk is carefully dead-headed so as to respect next year's buds already breaking through, preparing to outdo this year's glory. Adjacent plants tower higher, pinks, whites, reds, and yellow peach, but none compared to the unique elegance of my royal-hued sphere smothered in petalness. Sapphire and jade sun, sparkling lake water jewels to pass on to my great-granddaughter. The gems of our wilderness are now mined by the masses, mediatized, monetized, mapped, and Instagrammed. Purposed as proud postings and fleeting cyber photos, effortless, essenceless, senseless, leaving all traces for future generations. Sadness at the sight weeps heart to eye as a low-flying drone circles, buzzing by. Brush away the clouds in the sky, paint the hope of the 4th of July. Young artist hands wander vigorous with emotions over a canvas tarnished with inherited smears. New swirls of a starry night twirl Degas ballerinas with Renoir eyes, longing for Monet's lily pads to float away on. Van Gogh missed the comic, but I will grab its tail, exclaimed the youth with teenage vigor, embracing novel perspective on persistent world projects.
Okay.
Enlightened youth become the next generation's architects.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think Kate, our third open mic reader, left. She had to leave for something, right? Kate is not here?
She
Kate
did.
Weg?
She did.
Yes.
She left for
Okay.
another reading. I think there was
We also had Suzanne Cleary.
Suzanne Cleary. Yeah.
Yes. And Louis Willem, let's see, I think Louis, if he's still here, had also indicated an interest. That's a little ways down.
Lois Villamar.
Yes.
Lois,
I'm
okay,
here.
sorry.
Oh, I missed those. Okay, so okay. I don't care who goes next, but Lois, if you want to go next, one page, one poem, no longer than a page. And
Okay.
and then then we'll have one more reader after you. So thank you. Thank you so much. It's still light out where you are.
It is, but not for long. Okay, this is one short poem. It's called On the Same Day. We shiver at the funeral of a friend. He suffered at the end. Family and friends gather graveside to honor his life, to witness his passage to eternal rest, grateful he's at peace. On the same day, our niece gives birth to a baby girl. So much love welcomes her into the world. Named in loving memory of my sister, the would have been grandmother, who passed from our lives, the youngest of 5. Her loss shattered the family. Death and birth, a syncopated dance, hesitant to emerge, unpredictable yet certain, to create footprints on the journey we travel. Heartbeats begin or end, like dusk or dawn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lois.
Thank you.
Lois Perch Villamere. And did we have one more you were saying, Caroline? I'm
Yeah,
looking-
it was Suzanne Cleary. Suzanne, are you still
Suzanne
here?
Cleary.
Yes,
Yeah.
she is here.
Good.
I'm here.
I have to get off speaker view so I can see gallery.
There we go. Okay.
Hello.
Thank you, Suzanne, for reading a poem. Suzanne's one of our past featured readers. Wonderful.
Well, thank you for hosting this reading today, all of our 4 hosts. I really needed a poetry reading today, and I thank each reader, both the featured readers and the readers reading afterward. My poem for today is a brand new poem. It's really quite short. It's called White Horse. One night 10 years ago, I dreamt a white horse stood in my backyard beside the stump of the maple tree cut down when its roots began pushing up through the driveway. The horse stood where the canopy of leaves used to cast its shadow on the invisible lives of the grass. It seemed to stare at the tree, then shook its head, the white mane fluttering like water flutters over a fish swimming close to the surface. Every morning, I go to the window. I push back the edge of the blue curtain. I look. No, it's not there. Yes, there it is. The end.
Thank you, Suzanne. That was wonderful. And everyone unmute yourself. So we're going to have our Sandy's going to close us out. And anyway, let me just put you in gallery view. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Just a reminder at the top of the first hour to our four features, Suzanne Michele Coronel, to Ray Armantrout, to Mary Keating, and of course to Margot Taft Stever. Thanks to the four of you and to our four open mic readers. Thanks so much. Thank you so much to Laura, Leslie, Ann, Lois, and Suzanne. And we really appreciate everyone being here. You know, I've been thinking so much in this past week. I'm so aware that poetry's purpose is not necessarily to make me feel better, but what it does is that it makes me feel that I am more human and that I'm more connected. And I definitely always need that in the worst of times. I need it in the best of times as well. So I truly appreciate poetry's ability to create community when it feels so despairing out there. Thank each and every one of you for being part of this today. Thanks to, of course, to all four of our my other co-hosts, Lynn McGee, Susanna H. Case, and Carolyne Wright. And we hope that you will join us. It's our last season, folks. I hope you'll join us for our next reading, which will be on Saturday, March 14th. Watch for our announcements. Stay safe out there and keep writing and sharing your wonderful poems. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, everybody.
The recording will be
it was
available
wonderful.
shortly.
I'm gonna close out the recording now.